Learn to eliminate judgment from your life. That is today's title. We're going to come at it from two different perspectives. So the first one being the fear of being judged. So if you're concerned about what people think about you and you find yourself trying to manage people's opinions of you, like either, consciously or unconsciously, then that's one way. And then the other one is if you find yourself to be judgmental and you don't want to be judgmental, you just don't really like this quality in yourself and you want to get rid of it, then these are two aspects of the same thing. And what I mean by that is that generally people who are judgmental are themselves afraid of being judged and vice versa. So what we're going to do today is look at judgment itself and see it as a concept, see it as a mental, psychological thing that we do, see how it works, really understand its mechanic, and then drop it and then release it. And this may seem like a tall order if you, like most people, have spent the bulk of your life in judgment of yourself and others. Nevertheless, there's nothing about judgment that represents this big, Rock of Gibraltar thing, like, oh my God, how am I ever going to get rid of this massive thing in my life? That would be to overestimate its potency, overestimate its reality in your life. It's just a habit. It's just something we do. And so in this video, I'm going to aim to bring you to as much clarity around the subject as possible so that by the end of this video, you will be able to drop it and step beyond it and experience all the benefit that there is to be had. Now, on the subject of that benefit, I was kind of brainstorming a few things about what makes this such a valuable thing to do. And I will tell you, it makes you much more charismatic and likable, and it makes it easier to develop strong, powerful friendships, strong, powerful relationships. When you're in the presence of somebody who is non-judgmental and they've really figured this part of their lives out, you can feel it in them and they can feel it in you. And it means that they know they can relax in your presence and they can be themselves and open up and they'll be receptive to you. So this works beautifully in any new relationship and it works beautifully in any existing relationship. So if you learn how to drop judgment, bring it to a close, then every relationship, family, friendship, romantic, peers, coworkers, all of that improves right away and you'll be able to develop stronger bonds with all of these people. So that's cool as well. And furthermore, dropping judgment will allow you to move more directly upon your life's path, your life's purpose, the journey of your self-actualization. At the end of the day, judgment is just a stone in your shoe. It's an obstacle. It's friction. It's something to be gotten rid of as quickly as possible. And so all of those benefits are there for you too. So let us dive in. If we've never met before, if you're new to the channel, I'm Brent. Thank you for being here. I'm a coach, an intuitive healer. The videos that I make here are dedicated to helping you move along your path of expansion, your path of self-mastery. I offer a number of services and the links for those are below for you to check out. The only one in particular I want to mention is the Sovereign Creators Collective, which is my private membership group. It's just opened up. Super, super exciting stuff. The major theme behind that is that when we look into the future and see all of the craziness and uncertainty ahead, what we need are leaders. And by leaders, I mean people who know who they are, know what they're doing, have learned unconditional love, have learned to discover in themselves the knowing that all is well, and give themselves permission to create that which is in them to create. And my big personal dream is that as more and more people discover this in themselves, they learn how to reclaim their power instead of concentrating it into the hands of, say, celebrities or whatever. And then together we can see each other, dissolve conflict, build, and get on top of our shit. That is what we're accomplishing at the Sovereign Creators Collective, and it's also what we're doing at this channel. Now let's get on with the show. I'm going to tell you about judgment, and we're going to look at it as a thing. We're going to study what it actually is, how it works, and then we're going to look at how it creates pain and suffering, and we're going to look at how it influences our relationships with people, And then once all of that is done, then we're going to do some things to bring judgment to a close, dissolve it, and remove it from our lives. So, judgment. What is judgment? Judgment, very simply, is when we look at something and say that it's something. That's what it is at its core. So let's just say, for example, I'm holding an apple. If I say this apple is an apple, then for the purpose of our discussion, that's not a judgment. To say an apple is truth. And then judgment is when we look at this apple and say this apple is big, small, it's red or green, it's up or down, and it's good or bad, high quality, low quality. All of these are ways of describing and adding properties, adding characteristics to this thing. What's important to keep in mind as we do this is that there's nothing inherently wrong with doing that, to say this apple's good or bad. But what it does mean is that we are creating information about this apple. And even though we're saying it's about this apple that we're looking at, the information and the judgment is taking place in our minds. So it's happening on our territory, it's happening over here. And the judgment itself doesn't affect the apple. It doesn't touch the apple. Because the apple, in this example, is reality. It's reality having manifested itself in a particular way for us to look at. And so when we judge it to be this way or that way, all I'm saying right now is that these are two different realms. There's the realm of information, and then there's the realm of the physicality, and that these two things do not intersect. They don't, the realm of information and the realm of physical reality do not touch each other. And what's so significant about this is that as we go deeper into this discussion, you will see how the mistake that we all make is forgetting that the information is just in our minds and doesn't actually have anything to do with the apple. And instead, we mistake the apple for the information. We actually start to think that the information is the apple, and that's where things go wrong. Now, where does this start to cause us problems? It starts to cause us problems when we start using evaluation style words such as good, bad, right, wrong, better, worse. If I'm looking at two apples and one apple has a worm in it and another one does not, I might say that the one that has the worm in it is bad. And it's bad because it's gross. And the one that doesn't, it's good because it doesn't have a worm, and I'd personally prefer to eat an apple that doesn't have a worm in it. And so that's pretty useful, because then I can take these two apples and go to somebody else and say, I can say, hey, by the way, just so you know, this apple's good, this apple's bad. And he'll be like, right, got it. And then he will eat the right one because I gave him the right evaluation. Now, good and bad as terms are useful in that way. They're useful in a relative way, which is to say, in this relative context, it's, we have two useful words. But if I start using the words good and bad in an absolute way, then we run into trouble. So if there's an apple and there's a worm in this apple, I'm holding it, and if I say it's bad that the worm is in the apple, it's bad that this has occurred to this apple, or it's bad that I'm holding it, or it's bad that it is the way it is, well, then something very interesting has happened, where reality has presented itself to me in this way. And I, with my mind and with my free will, I look at this and I say no. I say no, it's wrong. A mistake has been made on behalf of reality. It shouldn't be this way. And so then all of that, is what I'm basically saying when I say it's bad that there is a worm in this apple. And then something happens where when I do that, and I say this is not good, then I create a sort of schism. I create a little bit of separation where I am saying to myself and to the world, to everybody within earshot, that I am not in acceptance, I'm not in allowance of this apple that I'm holding. I'm unwilling to exist in the same reality as it, despite the fact that I am. Like, I already am, I'm here, but I'm unwilling to be here. I'm unwilling for this apple to have this worm in it. I'm unwilling for reality to be as it is. And so then when we do that, I want you first to notice the total impotence around it. And how it's funny. It really makes me laugh at this point. You know, when you look deeply enough at it, there's an impotence around it where reality just is as it is. And I come along and look at it and say, no, you know, reality, God, creator, whatever, just like cosmos, universe, I'm speaking to the totality of everything. I'm saying, no, a mistake is made. This shouldn't be as it is. Like, see in this moment as we talk about it, the nature on how it falls on deaf ears, how intensely it falls on deaf ears, how there's no customer service counter behind reality to take in our complaint and issue a statement of some kind, or to apologize or correct its ways. Our complaint or our unwillingness to allow reality to be as it is just lost in an infinite echo out into the black blank void of nothingness. And as we hold a position against this aspect of reality, which is what we're doing, we're holding a position of againstness, of disallowance, suffering is created. Suffering is generated as a result of this position of disallowance. There's a belief behind this position of disallowance that through my unwillingness to coexist with this aspect of reality, somehow I am encouraging it to rectify itself in my eyes. So I'm basically saying, I refuse to be well. I refuse to breathe deeply. I refuse to accept how things are until this aspect of reality creates itself. And in a way, this is a misunderstanding and a misuse of our power. This is force, as I've spoken about in different earlier videos on power versus force. Force is me contorting my energy in order to manipulate reality to be differently as it is. And suffering is generated. And when I say suffering, the suffering is as intense as is the position of disallowance. So if it really is just a dumb little apple, it's not like rocking our world, nothing's terribly, but you'll notice that you just feel slightly irritated, slightly peeved, slightly upset about it. And so that's how that works. So for most of us, for most of humanity, we hold positions of againstness against reality, different aspects of reality, things that happened in the past, things that are going to happen, that may happen in the future, things that are the way they are right now. We can, something could have happened to us 10 years ago. We got into an altercation with another motorist, and it was a very unpleasant interaction, and we come home and we're angry, and we're like, oh, okay, I just got to get over this, whatever. And we just try to get over it. And, we distract ourselves and watch TV and then do something else and go to sleep and wake up. But whenever we think about that event ever again, whenever we think about it, the energy and the emotional charge behind it wakes back up with it. There's a little contraction in the body. And then what that means is that that thing is still alive in us. We have not brought it to resolution. We're still in a stance of disallowance. So take a minute now to consider how many things in the world, both near and far, future, past, fictional even, from something you read, how many things do you hold a position against? This is your argument with reality. And I will say now, and I may have to continue saying as we continue to move through this conversation, that holding a position against an element of manifest reality serves no benefit. It is impotent. It doesn't make anything happen. It seems to, though, which is why we do it. Otherwise, why would we do it? It's just a self-generated suffering. It's total madness. It is really, for my money, it is what madness is. It is what insanity is to have argument with reality. But we do have argument with reality because we believe it serves some kind of function. And detect this in yourself. So take a minute to see if you can think of an example of some aspect of reality that you're against. And then imagine just like being like, just imagine dropping that againstness and just letting it be there. Giving it permission to just be there. Are you willing to do that? And if you feel like a no come up, then investigate that no, because that no is the lie. That no is the falsehood. And that no is the barrier to you finding these deeper levels of peace, clarity, wellness, and unification that we talk about in these videos. So once we see this, once we discover how this works, the name of this game, then everything changes. When we really see the impotence, the lack of power, the lack of efficacy behind holding a position of againstness towards an aspect of reality, then we go from collecting them to disabusing ourselves of them. We start dropping them. And at first, if we're relatively new to this way of being, it takes a lot of trust, because I completely sympathize. Like, to drop againstness, it feels somewhat vulnerable, because we really have convinced ourselves that we keep ourselves safe. We convince ourselves that we prevent more bad things from happening by holding a position of againstness. And you have to journal with it a little bit. You have to look into it, but you'll find if you look at it honestly, I hold againstness because I believe it keeps me safe and it prevents bad things from happening, or it prevents bad things from getting even worse. There's a sense of control here, where as long as I hold a position of againstness, then things will stop sliding out of control. So again, once all of that is seen, and the falsehood behind this way of thinking is totally seen, then the game now is, I'm ready to drop all of my fight with the world. I'm ready to drop my conflict and all of the different layers and aspects of my conflict with the world, with reality. I'm ready to stop fighting reality. I'm ready to drop my denial. You may ask yourself, I wonder, in what way am I in denial of reality? I'm ready to interface with reality as it is. And it's only in a moment such as this that we find our potency. Because if we're interacting with reality as it should be, according to our personal idea of how it's supposed to be, how can anything be achieved? You're working with an element of your imagination. So when we drop againstness, when we drop our disallowance and interface with reality as it is, now we can really do something. And now we have access to deeper reservoirs of resourcefulness to actually do something. So that's the nature of judgment. So now we can look at judging people. You may be able to pick up my mother-in-law and my daughter playing together. So you can enjoy that too, some ambience. Judging people. All right. I'm going to share with you now what is the core of this video. The core message, the absolute central message, the one thing, if you forget everything else, the one thing I would love for you to take away from this. Whenever we judge somebody else, it is our own selves that we are judging. It is not possible to be against some aspect of humanity and be in total love and acceptance of ourselves. I would love for you to look at how you view humanity and to see that as precisely how you view yourself. And similarly, oppositely, how you view yourself is how you view humanity. If you are in judgment of humanity, if there are aspects of humanity that you find to be bad, if you believe that there are some people who are good and some people are bad, then what that means is that you believe there are aspects of yourself that are good and there are aspects of yourself that are bad. And I'm here to tell you today that these are just evaluations. These are just judgments. There's nothing about you that's good or bad, in the relative sense. In an absolute sense, you are good. You are holy. You are a creation. You are an essential creation of God. But on the level of judgments, there's nothing good or bad about you because there's no criteria. There's no true criteria to judge good or bad behavior. There is abusive and non-abusive behavior. There's harmful and non-harmful behavior. And we have our reasons for maximizing certain of those and minimizing certain others of those. But let's just say there's somebody out there who is a liar and a thief. There's a liar and a thief. And maybe this person has lied to you. Maybe this person has stolen from you. What does that mean about this person? Does it mean this person is bad? Well, that's tricky because before we answer, I can ask you, have you ever in your livelong life stolen anything? Have you ever in your livelong life lied? Of course you have. Of course I have too. And the truth is that the stage of growth where we are lying and stealing is one that we pass through, ideally. And to say that somebody's bad because they lie and they cheat and they steal is to say that we ourselves are bad, or that we were at one point bad and now we're good. And this is a lack of acceptance. This is looking once again at God's green earth, looking at all of manifest reality and saying to ourselves, there are some aspects that are good, but these over there are not good and they shouldn't be as they are. And now suffering is generated. So in the name of releasing that suffering, we look at people who lie and they cheat and they steal, and we go, oh, I see. I used to be that. And there's nothing wrong with this person. That's just where they're at. I will still, practically speaking, protect myself from them. I may not hang out with them. I may not make myself vulnerable to them. I may not expose myself to them. I won't allow them to steal from me. I won't allow them to hurt me. And we take all of the practical precautions necessary to make sure it doesn't happen. So please do not misinterpret what I'm saying as like you should just let people steal from you or from anybody. Sometimes people need to be put in prison. Fine. You have to do what you have to do. But that's just where they're at. Now, some people may be in that stage of growth and they may never move beyond that stage of growth. They may stay in that stage forever, just for whatever reason, due to their biochemistry, due to their upbringing, due to their circumstances, for whatever reason. It just won't happen. And really, those of us who progress out of the lying, cheating, and stealing phase, it's really only by God's grace that we do it. Right? It's only by happenstance. We are fortunate enough to have the right circumstances, the right biochemistry. These people didn't. Does that make us better than them? No. It's just the circumstances. It's just what happened to them. It's just what happened to us. So let me ask you, how much love do they deserve? Do they deserve anything less than complete, utter, complete love? If you start playing games and creating mental schematics where you are positioning yourself to dole out God's love. All right, you deserve this much, you deserve that much. That's you doing it, not God. By the way, if I talk about God, this is total non-theistic God. This is metaphysical, perhaps philosophical God. Like fill in whatever word that you want to use, the universe, source, creator, whatever. This is not like me like pushing a Christian thing or whatever, right? We're way, way beyond that here. Just God. Okay. So we love some people up close. We love some people from afar. But who deserves love and who doesn't? That's not up to us. Love flows wherever it's going to flow. And if there's any person, let alone any aspect of reality anywhere, that we have decided does not deserve love, shall not be loved by us, who suffers? Us. As well as them. There's a chink in the armor. There's an incompleteness there. There's a weakness in the chain. There's an incompleteness in the web. There's a lack of integrity somewhere. There's a picking and choosing of worthiness. Worthiness just is or it isn't. Love just is or it isn't. There's no picking or choosing. That's just games. Through love, total acceptance, we become the most productive, most mature, most solid contributor to reality. Whenever we come into the world for something and against something, we're always creating suffering, always creating friction of some kind. And we're always making as much of a problem as that which we are solving. No true progress comes from a partial psychology. Evolution only happens from an impartial psychology. So, okay, so now, we can get into it. So let's just say, for example, you find yourself wondering about how people judge you, your parents. What does your mom think of you? Your dad think of you? What do your friends think of you? What does your employer think of you? What do your viewers and followers think of you? And you're concerned about that. Would you be willing to know as of now that whatever anybody thinks of you has nothing to do with you? Matt Kahn had this wonderful little turn of phrase where he said, if anybody ever comes up to you and says that they have a problem with you or they have something to bring up with you in a negative way, just in your head, do a little translation, a little autocorrect, where whenever they say you, they're referring to God. Just replace you with God. Somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I got a problem with you. What they're really saying is, I have a problem with God. And feel the liberation that comes as a result of it. Because you're not here to arrange your circumstances or your actions or life in order to get the right reactions from people. It's a total waste of time. It's a total waste. Instead, you can say something like this out loud. I allow the world to have its judgments. I allow the world to have its opinions. I allow everyone to think whatever they're going to think. I will act according to myself. I acknowledge people's judgments are about themselves. I acknowledge that people's judgments are about their psychology. It has nothing to do with me. No judgments or opinions have anything to do with me. How's that feel? If someone gets upset or triggered by you, when you speak, when you create, when you put your authentic work out into the world. That's them struggling with their own evaluations of right and wrong. What else is there to do except bless them? What if all you had to do, what if your whole thing was just simply to show up as you are and offer that which is in you to offer? To do that which is in you to do. What if you could allow it to be that simple? And now similarly, if you find yourself to be judgmental, so here, this is really fun. I really like this. So let's just say like you've been listening to this whole thing and you're like, yeah, I agree. And like, nevertheless, you're just still judgmental. So totally fine. You're right where I want you to be. Here's the question. Are you in judgment of judgment? Do you feel like in this video, I've made judgment and the generation of needless suffering into a bad thing? What if it's not? What if it too is just what it is? Could you allow it to be there? Could you allow yourself to be in judgment? Whenever we're against anything, this is also important to mention, whenever we're against anything, whatever it is that we're against, holding a position against, like the deep irony here, deep irony is that we fix that thing in place by being against it, including judgment. If you judge something as bad and you're like, oh wait, no, I'm not supposed to be judgmental. Oh no, I'm just gonna be loving and accepting. But like you just can't make yourself be loving and judgmental, non-judgmental. Then just be judgmental. Give it to yourself as a gift. Judge deeply. Judge while the judging's good. Make hay while the sun shines. Really go for it. Again, it's impotent. Like there's no power behind judgment, so do it. It's safe. It's safe to judge people. Through this way, then eventually the karma around it will be completed, and then you'll just find there's no longer any attraction to doing it. If there's anything in you that appears as an obstacle along the road to your growth, mastery, self-actualization, then that obstacle is the way. That obstacle is the way. Then we give it our full attention. Give it full permission, space, room, including a lack of acceptance, including self-generated suffering. So a few examples of how judging others is us judging ourselves. Like if you can think of, these like conservative politicians who are like anti-homosexual, like who like have a thing against homosexual people, and they're like later discovered in big gay orgies later, this kind of thing. An example from my own life is when I was going through like a really big non-sugar, non-alcohol phase, and like I was doing really well. I was like a couple weeks just like no sugar, no alcohol, and I'd see other people out in the world drinking and eating sugar, and I would judge them. I'd be like, oh, those poor bastards, look at them, But really, that was me not having fully capitulated my attraction to these things. And really what was waiting for me eventually, once my willpower wore out, was a binge in sugar and alcohol. Now I still focus on eating less, and I'm doing better with it. I have less sugar, less alcohol in my life. But if I see people drinking and having sugar, I see them as at that stage of their journey, just where they're at. And so I'm not above them. I'm not below them. Judgments are always about the judge. There's no good or bad people. So that's the whole thing. That's what I came here to say. So how do we do? Please leave a comment. Tell me in the comment section, did this hit its mark? Do you feel judgment as a whole mechanism starting to dissolve? This is good research for me. Check out the Sovereign Creators Club, Collective. Check out the other offerings. I offer one-on-one coaching, healing services. Link for that below. Please hit like. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you later.